2026, the year of the fire horse, a symbol of progress, endurance, and vitality. With Lunar New Year just around the corner, life in Taiwan is rushing forward before everything briefly comes to a standstill. Markets are crowded, offices fall quiet, and families come together for a holiday that's about far more than celebration. Joining me today are journalists Huang of CTS and Cadence Quaranta of TaiwanPlus. We'll look at why covering the holidays and reporting on traditional culture is not just a side story, because here in Taiwan, tradition is essential journalism. Hello and welcome to Correspondents, where we go beyond the headlines with reporters here in Taiwan and across the region. I'm Andrew Ryan. While millions of people in Taiwan head home for the Lunar New Year, others stay behind to keep the country running. Among them, journalists. They keep the public informed and tell the stories that define who we are. Today, we're exploring Taiwan's most important holiday from a journalist's lens. We begin with Huang. He's an anchor and international correspondent for Taiwan's CTS News, reporting on technology, business, and global affairs. When you think of the Lunar New Year, is this a time that traditionally has a lot of news or no news?
Actually, no news, because people are going to have their holidays, so some of them will go abroad, some of them will have their family reunion. So usually, hopefully, there's no breaking news, but sometimes if the breaking news happen, we are all on duty.
So are you going to be in the office during Lunar New Year week, or are you going to have time off?
I only have maybe one day off.
No.
Because I'm a journalist and a news anchor as well. So as a journalist, I have to write some story and go to a lot of different places to cover it. And as a news anchor, I have to go inside our news studio to report and do our program. Yeah.
It's interesting, in the newsroom, we often say that reporters have to prepare what we call nian cai. So most people in Taiwan are running around trying to buy ingredients to put on their Lunar New Year table. Reporters are also trying to get stories ready to serve up during the Lunar New Year. Do you have any ideas for stories that you might be doing this year?
I guess I'm trying to find artificial intelligence topic of it, like how can we use AI to make a good recipe, or how can we use artificial intelligence to make the whole Lunar New Year festival getting a good dining. And I remember one of topic my colleague did. It's pretty cool because you have to have a good dining every year, but some of business or corporates wants to have a creative one. So like they have a very handsome guy to have dancing with their customer, and it goes viral every year because journalists always have to find new topics. So people are trying to find, wow, so what's different this year?
But actually, you did a great job in 2025. You also did a piece about artificial intelligence and celebrating the Lunar New Year. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Every year when the Lunar New Year's comes, people have to have a great greeting with everybody, like your family, your colleague, your friends. But usually we will just having some phrases. But when artificial intelligence becomes more and more important, now you can use AI to generate a video, a song, or a bilingual card. So it's quite different from the era we don't have artificial intelligence.
I tell you, I definitely need AI help creating some auspicious phrases in Mandarin. Now I want to play a little clip from your report. Have a look.
新年快乐！过年期间，除了可以领红包之外，现在 AI 科技日新月异，也多了不少创意玩法。马上带你体验看看。比如华视什么都有的图片，不用多少时间 ，AI 就让小蛇活生生动起来，祝福你蛇年丝丝如意。或者放一张自己的照片，一瞬间仿佛成了蛇姬，旁边布景也超有春节气氛。
So how do you think that, the average person should be thinking about AI during the holiday time? I mean, is this something that you would encourage people to use?
I encourage, because if you have a better prompting skill, you can use it for more creative and good listening phrases. Some people are not really good at expressing their feelings, but now artificial intelligence can help you to capture your emotion and what you really feels and turn it into a song or video and in a very creative way.
I know that during the Lunar New Year, a lot of reporters will get special assignments. You had a very special assignment last year in 2025. You actually anchored the news, a full hour-long news segment for the first time. How was that?
It's pretty cool because when I was just a journalist or correspondent on the ground, you only focus on specific topic. Like my mainly focus is on technology or maybe geopolitics. But when you are anchoring an hour of news, you have to cover all aspects. And you have to be really, really well informed.
Most people are going to be sitting at home during the Lunar New Year week. Does that mean that more people are watching the news or fewer people are watching the news?
Usually, I guess more, because when people don't know what to do and they are just staying at home and they just return to home for their family once a year. So when they are doing nothing, they can just turn on television and just play it. And usually the television news program will do something related to Lunar New Year, like the food, like the traveling.
Now, every year, the president and vice president will also send out these greeting cards for Lunar New Year. You can see the one they have for this year is a horse for the year of the horse. And another thing that they do is that they hand out lucky red envelopes with money in them. They pass them out to people on the front lines, people like the troops. Now, that's a story that you'll be covering as well, yes?
Yeah, because it's related to our national security and defense. It is Lunar New Year, but our troops have to work and protect our country as well. The president will do it and media will cover it. And people really like red envelope for good luck and maybe just some bonus.
Now, one of my favorite stories every year is what's called 枪头香.
Yeah.
So at the temples, you'll see that people rushing in the front doors, trying to be the first to place an incense stick in the main cauldron for the temple. If you're the first person, that's like good luck for the rest of the year, maybe for the rest of the decade. Any other memorable stories from the Lunar New Year time that people are going to be watching for?
There is a drama called 后宫甄嬛传. During the Lunar New Year season, the television will play it 24 hours on YouTube channel. Yeah, it's an old drama, like everybody knows about it, but people will replay it, and at the chat room, people will use current phrases to talk about the story they have already known.
How much reporting does CTS do on cultural stories? Like I know for TaiwanPlus, we're of course covering all of the different traditions that people, observe here in Taiwan related to the holiday, but I think people in Taiwan largely already know about Lunar New Year. How do you find something new to report on related to the traditions?
For example, what I just mentioned is like a drama called 后宫甄嬛传. Yeah, young generation, they make a new phenomenon of it. So we try to analyze why, especially it's 2026, but it's still viral, and we try to use a cultural perspective to analyze it. If there is something different, we will say, wow, so it's changing, maybe due to Gen Z culture, maybe due to some consumer behaviors changing. People try to find different way of celebration. In the past, we always go back home for a family reunion, but younger generation, they try to also have a party with their friends. So during nighttime, so many young people will go outside and have another kind of celebration. But in the past, you can only stay with your family, but now it's more open. And because our economy is booming, our stock market is booming, so more and more people they tend to play abroad or have a traveling during the holiday season. But if you are very into our traditional culture, some parents or older generations think during this period you should only stay at home.
How do you stay prepared during this time of the year, especially when you have shorter staffing?
we keep every day staffing enough. So when there is breaking news happening, we will immediately get to the place. Like if there is a deadly fire, we hope it's not going to happen this year, or maybe a very deadly car clash, we will just go to the hospital and know what's going on. And maybe something breaking news is not locally, it's like internationally. So last year, China just launched DeepSeek. The whole market is talking about it, especially in Silicon Valley. So even during the holiday season, we made a lot of coverage about it.
Now, you're a tech reporter. You've actually had the opportunity to ask questions of Jensen Huang, who's NVIDIA's CEO and founder, a number of times, I think more than 20 different times. Is this something that you're going to be watching? Are you going to be watching his movements during the Lunar New Year holiday to see if there's any breaking news related to NVIDIA?
So in February, during our holiday season, I will keep my eye watching all the breakthrough of artificial intelligence. And because Jensen Huang is not only a tech giant anymore, some describe him as geopolitics star. So what he said and what he did will influence our diplomacy, like how the US and China and Taiwan are related and all the tensions across artificial intelligence.
And another thing, of course, that reporters are going to be following throughout the Lunar New Year, as with every day of the year here in Taiwan, is defense. So I think that last year we saw a little bit of an uptick in military activity around Taiwan. Now, in the past, China's military was, they also took the week off or the Lunar New Year holidays off, but that's not the case anymore. Is that something you're going to be watching?
Not only from a defense perspective, but also from cultural perspective. Actually, every year during the New Year season, there is a debate, like, should we call it Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year? Yeah, and it's a debate every year between different Taiwanese because it's an identity issue.
Still to come on Correspondents, our conversation with TaiwanPlus's Cadence Quaranta on why Lunar New Year matters beyond the festivities, and how Taiwan's traditional culture shapes the way it's celebrated and seen across the world. Back in a moment.
From a small studio in Taiwan to a global community for undaunted voices.
I'm just very grateful that they are able to spend time being part of Taiwan Talks and also being here with us today.
It's so refreshing that from a different country, from Taiwan, we are actually getting to see a show without noise, without yelling, and it's just complete facts and expert opinion.
Every single episode is about a Taiwan perspective.
Taiwanese speaking something from our heart.
Bringing forward all these different perspectives and voices to engage the world more seriously and continuously.
So the world will know that we are part of this globalized world.
British warship transited the international waters. We're facing
without compromising our national
security. A lot of potential for these countries.
How important
I would like
do
to
you
see
think
where
that
there's
is?
rule of law based order.
It's been 3 years of almost every waking hour devoted to the show. Today, we have something, and that something is precious.
Welcome back to Correspondents. Lunar New Year is more than just a holiday. It's a time when Taiwan's culture and traditions really come to life. Joining me now is TaiwanPlus reporter Cadence Quaranta. Hi, Cadence. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, Cadence is our lead geopolitics reporter, but she's also spent a lot of time telling Taiwan's cultural stories. One of those from 2025 looked at the tradition of bande, or roadside banquets, a uniquely Taiwanese way of bringing communities together. Let's have a look.
Before sunrise in New Taipei, inside tents set up on the side of a road, a kitchen is already bustling. This team is preparing an elaborate menu for a traditional Taiwanese roadside banquet. Roadside banquets, or bandou in Taiwanese Hokkien, are held to gather communities together for big events or celebrations over a large feast of traditional Taiwanese dishes.
都是一种台湾的文化嘛。以前你看，我们那个生日啊，结婚了啊，生小孩满月啊，买新房子、新居落成嘛，也要板豆，生下去有没有？然后再收回来，再画过来，然后再生进去，回来，生进去。
So Cadence, why do cultural stories matter? I mean, especially for international audiences, like audiences watching TaiwanPlus.
I mean, I think that a lot of people know about Taiwan in the context of geopolitics and its role in the world in relation to China and its semiconductors and its microchips. And I think that's where a lot of international news goes when they talk about Taiwan. And I think that what I've been really determined to do is to show that Taiwan is more than that Taiwan has really deep culture, really deep traditions, and really interesting ways of celebrating holidays and all of these aspects of culture that international news outlets might not be as interested in.
Now, a lot of your geopolitics pieces have a quick turnaround. They're daily pieces that you have to complete on the day or get out as soon as you can. But for something like the bandou piece, what goes into that? How much planning does it take to do something like that?
It takes a lot more planning than I think it would seem. I think in visual journalism, you really need to go into a project knowing what you're going to see and what you're going to shoot and having a plan about, I guess, what you're going to learn from each interviewee and maybe what sound bites you want to use. So you have to kind of go in knowing a lot. We did pre-interviews. We talked to our characters about what they would be doing, and they walked us through everything that we might see. And so we kind of had a very in-depth plan before we even went.
So what's the biggest challenge with doing cultural pieces like the bandou piece?
It's a challenge for me because I come from a community that's different from Taiwan, and I'm not a part of these cultures, and I didn't grow up being a part of traditions like the roadside banquet. So I'm kind of starting from zero, and I'm asking the most basic questions. And sometimes I think maybe they're stupid questions to some people, but I think that I really have to take the time to ask them to be able to tell the most accurate story possible that reflects Taiwanese culture in the best way possible and the most accurate way possible. So I think that the challenge for me is really, I guess, not being afraid to ask every question that comes to mind, even if to a Taiwanese person, maybe that's the most basic thing and they already know. So I think I really have to be confident in asking those questions.
Pieces like you've done about the goddess of the sea, Mazu, the procession that takes days to complete, it travels kilometers, hundreds of kilometers. Those are also really rich in visuals and sound that make them great for TV. Can you tell us about some of your memories of sounds and visuals from that piece?
That was a really cool piece to get to do. We walked for multiple days with some of the pilgrims that were on this journey. The journey itself is 9 days as a whole, but I think we walked around 3 or 4 days with them. And some of the sounds that I really remember are people zipping up their tents on the side of the road. They would stop for a couple hours in the middle of the night, and they would park outside of like a 7-Eleven or a Family Mart, and they would take out their tents and on the side of the road, and they would get a few hours of sleep before they started walking again. And so that's like a really vivid sound to me of zipping up their tents. Another really poignant visual, I think, is one that I actually captured with a tiny little camera, but it was a couple days into the journey, you really started to see the people in the group that we were walking in get really, really, really exhausted. The first couple days was kind of like adrenaline and people were really excited. Then you start to see the exhaustion set in. And I just remember this one visual of we had stopped on the side of the road and one of our group members, he just passed out on the side of the road. Like we were maybe stopped walking for a couple minutes and he was fast asleep. Just on the side of the road. I captured that with my little camera. Our videographers weren't there at the time, and that was just like such a poignant image in my mind. And one of his shoes had fallen off, but he was just out.
I mean, I think with stories like that, what's really impressive is that these are the faithful. These are people who are really devoted to Mazu, the goddess of the sea, so much so that they would walk through the night, sleep outside, eat very simple foods. So you're getting kind of a picture of who these faithful are at the same time.
That was something that I really loved, just to hear their stories about why they were doing this and why they were undertaking such a challenging journey, because it is really challenging. And I talked to a lot of the people in the group that we were walking with. Some of them said that they were on the journey to repay Mazu for things that she had done for them. Like, one of them had asked Mazu for a baby, and his wife had just had a baby. So he told Mazu, I will walk this pilgrimage to repay you for that gift. And then another pilgrim said that Mazu had been like his mother his whole life, and that he could tell anything to Mazu, and he felt really comfortable around her. So he wanted to do this in honor of her and as a gift to her. So I thought those were such poignant stories that I really loved to hear and to learn about.
It's not only difficult for the faithful, for the people who are actually part of the procession, it's difficult for reporters and journalists as well. Talk about the challenges of reporting on the Mazu procession.
I guess one of the most obvious challenges was that we were also walking, and we were walking while interviewing, sometimes walking backwards and interviewing. So that was a challenge in itself, a physical challenge, and just to keep doing that work for days on end. Throughout that story, since it was kind of a mini documentary, we wanted to follow characters. So we wanted to pick certain people in our group that would appear throughout the story, that we would interview from the first day to the middle to the last day when they finished. But a lot of the people that walk the pilgrimage don't necessarily finish the whole thing. They might go for 1 day or 4 days or 9 days, and they'll just see how they're feeling. So it was really hard to predict who our characters would be, because we would get a really good story from someone on the first day, but then by the second day they were no longer there. And so we were kind of having to adapt constantly to who we thought we would focus on in the story based on who was continuing in the journey. And we didn't know until the last day who was really going to be the through line for that whole documentary. So that was really challenging.
Now, let's talk about some of the Lunar New Year pieces that you've done in the past. Last year you did a piece on firecrackers. Tell us about that.
So we went and learned about firecrackers and all the traditions that are involved with setting off firecrackers in Lunar New Year. And one of them is kind of how it started. It started with this monster called Nien, who basically supposedly went into villages and ate people. And he was scared of 3 things: loud noises, fire, and the color red. And so firecrackers were people's way of scaring off this beast. And so that's kind of how it started, as a tradition of setting off firecrackers around Lunar New Year. And then there are also traditions like when you set off a large firecracker, it leaves a lot of like these red paper flakes around, and people put them in red envelopes and keep them in a safe. And then they believe that that will give fortune for the rest of the year. That was a really cool experience to kind of learn about all the traditions involved in firecrackers. And then we went to a factory that was making eco-friendly firecrackers because they believed that there was kind of noise and air pollution that would come from firecrackers. So they wanted to find a different way to also be celebratory and also kind of have the same setting off firecracker tradition, but without all of the waste. So we went out and saw another alternative to firecrackers.
And what are you planning to report on this year?
I'm planning to report on one of my favorite games, which is Mahjong. And I think a lot of international viewers actually know about this. It's become really popular across the world, not just in East Asia, especially recently. But we're telling kind of the history of Mahjong, how it's played differently in different areas of Asia, and then also even different areas of Taiwan. We're going to play a game of Mahjong and kind of introduce the rules, and then talk about why it's played during Lunar New Year in Taiwan.
As we mentioned earlier, Cadence is our lead geopolitics reporter. You have been to APEC in 2025, to Seoul, South Korea for the summit there. And how have cultural pieces helped you to understand Taiwan and the world?
Culture is so special in Taiwan, and things like the Mazu pilgrimage show you how much faith plays a role in Taiwan in daily life. The The roadside banquet piece shows you how much community is important to people in Taiwan and how much food is important to people in Taiwan. And I think all of these stories make Taiwan the country that it is. People are getting more and more fascinated with Taiwan across the world. It shows that Taiwan is not just its semiconductors or its relations with China, but it really does have a unique culture, which is also very interesting.
Our thanks again to Howard Huang of Taiwan's CTS News and Cadence Quaranta of TaiwanPlus. All the best to both of them in the Year of the Horse. And thank you for joining us in this edition of Correspondents. I'm Andrew Ryan. We'll see you next time.
Is there a place you've been searching for?
We bring you stories, not just to Taiwan,
exploring the issues that matter to you.
This is a journey that will move you. Our stories are all connected. TaiwanPlus.